Thailand's Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra has just survived a no-confidence vote in Parliament as expected, but her troubles are far from over. Demonstrations against her government are still building in the capital and beyond, and protesters say they won't give up until she is gone. Our Anna Corrin has the latest for us now from Bangkok. She's on the streets there. And Anna, tell us how this vote played out, what the numbers were like for the Prime Minister.
Rosemary, as you say, Yingluck Shinawatra has survived this vote of no confidence. She received 297 votes for her, 134 against, 2 people abstained. So apparently this wasn't as transparent as what we thought the process would be, in which MPs would have to get up in front of the Prime Minister and say whether or not they supported her. Instead, they just had to press a computer, yes or no. But regardless, she still won, and as she says, she is not going to resign, which is what the people here, certainly at this demonstration, are calling for. They want the Prime Minister and her government to resign. They claim that she is part of the Thaksin regime, just a puppet for her older brother, Thaksin Shinawatra, who was ousted during a military coup back in 2006. But this protests have now entered their 4th day, and these people have taken over several government buildings. Certainly here where we are now, this is a government complex building filled with lots of offices. They have actually entered the building. They've camped out overnight for the last several nights, and they say they will not leave. This is something, Rosemary, that is not going away anytime soon.
Indeed. Of course, Anna, no one doubted that the Prime Minister would win this no-confidence vote. After all, her party has a majority there in the Parliament. But the big question is, how long can she survive? It seems certainly politically she's strong, but out on the streets there, the pressure is building to such an extent. How long can these demonstrators sustain this sort of action?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Rosemary. If you think back to previous protests, obviously 2010, protesters sat out for something like 2 months, paralysing parts of Bangkok. Obviously, those protests turned deadly. 90 people were killed. Well, so far, these demonstrations have not turned violent. And even though the Prime Minister has given more power to the police, extended their powers to ensure that law and order is certainly put in place, she says that no force will be taken against these demonstrators. But these people say they're not going anywhere. They will stay here for as long as it takes, not just until she and the government resigns, but they are wanting reforms, political reforms. They feel that the system is skewed towards Yingluck Shinawatra and her brother Thaksin. They have a great deal of support from the north, from the rural poor, and the people here believe that they don't have enough of a voice and enough of a vote. Rosemary.
And Anna, I'd be interested, because we're hearing that the police are trying very hard not to provoke any tension with the demonstrators. And of course, it's important for the protesters on their part to make sure that that doesn't happen as well. What are you seeing there when you get in amongst the crowd? What is the mood of the protesters and indeed the police there?
Yeah, well, to tell the truth, Rosemary, I mean, we're at a government building which is normally occupied by government workers, and we can't see any police. There's obviously a lot of protesters, a lot of media crew, but certainly no police, no military. Yesterday, when we were at the Department of Special Investigation, which was surrounded by thousands of protesters, there were hundreds of riot police. They were geared up and ready to go, but they were just watching the crowd. I must stress that these protests are not violent. Nobody is carrying out any heinous acts. I think as drastic as it got was, cutting the power to one of these buildings. But even then, authorities did not react. They do not want a repeat of 2010. They do not want to see people shot by their own military, their own police. That did disastrous things for Thailand. It hurt the country. It hurt the economy. And they just do not want a repeat of that. So, as I said, while the government has extended the powers of the police, she has stressed very clearly that she does not want any force taken against these people. Problem is, Rosemary, they are prepared to wait. They are prepared to sit in here, possibly for months, which, obviously has a knock-on effect for this country. But one thing they definitely want to avoid is violence.
Indeed. And of course, next week is the much revered birthday of Thailand's king. It's going to be interesting to see on both sides of the equation here what's likely to occur in the streets. Has there been talk about that at this point?
Look, the king is loved. He is adored. He is revered in this country. And it's interesting, many of these demonstrators are part of the yellow shirts who are royalists. They are supporters of the king. And it's funny, there is misinformation out there, Rosemary, that Thaksin Shinawatra and his sister Yingluck wanted to overthrow the king. I mean, this is not true. This is something that would not happen. But as far as the king goes, he is very much revered, very much loved. Will these demonstrations continue into next week? Many people are saying yes. Many people are saying this could drag on for months. This is something that is not foreign to people in Thailand. They are prepared to prove their point, and they will do that by staging these mass demonstrations. And these people will say that they will continue to occupy these government buildings until they see political reform.
All right, our Anna Corrin on the streets there of Bangkok.